The history of global warfare has rarely witnessed a resurgence as rapid and terrifying as Germany's rise between the two world wars. From a defeated nation, disarmed, humiliated, economically broken, and stripped of its pride after World War I, Germany transformed within just 2 decades into a military superpower. Under the leadership of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party, the German army, Wehrmacht, shed its old skin and emerged as a fearsome war machine that reshaped modern warfare and dragged humanity into the bloodiest conflict in history. They rebuilt their army in silence, developed advanced weapons, and trained soldiers with iron discipline. And when the moment came, they unleashed something the world had never seen before: blitzkrieg, lightning war. In only a few weeks, Poland was crushed, the Netherlands and Belgium collapsed, and France, once the greatest military power in Europe, fell in only 6 weeks. The roar of Panzer tanks, the terrifying wail of Stuka dive bombers, and the lightning advances of mechanized infantry turned the German army into a symbol of destruction. Just the name, Germany, was enough to send all of Europe trembling. The question is, how did a defeated nation, stripped of its military power, rise so quickly to become the greatest nightmare of modern Europe? The wound of Versailles and the drive for revenge. We return to the moment right after World War I. In 1919, inside the lavish palace of Versailles in France, Germany's fate was decided, not on the battlefield, but at the negotiation table. The Treaty of Versailles, which formally ended the war, was not seen by Germans as a peace agreement, but as a humiliating death sentence. The numbers speak for themselves. Territory and resources. Germany lost 1/8 of its territory and nearly half its population. Even worse, the country lost 1/3 of its coal mines, 1/3 of its iron production, 2/5 of its steel output, and many of its most important industrial regions. Military restrictions. This was the harshest blow to Germany's pride. The army was limited to just 100,000 men, barely enough for domestic security. Germany was forbidden from having an air force, prohibited from producing tanks, and barred from building submarines. The navy was reduced to a few small patrol vessels for coastal duty. The general staff, the brain of the German military, was dissolved. Economy. The reparations, later adjusted to around 3 billion gold marks, strangled the already fragile Weimar economy. But the true consequences of the Treaty of Versailles were felt in everyday life. Hyperinflation rendered the German mark worthless, so worthless that a single loaf of bread could cost a wheelbarrow full of money. Veterans wandered the streets, disabled and forgotten. People starved. The Weimar government was powerless. A nation raised on imperial pride could not accept such humiliation. They saw Versailles as a stab in the back, an unjust punishment imposed by Britain and France. This desire for revenge became fertile ground for extremist nationalism. Amid this chaos, Adolf Hitler, a World War I veteran with extraordinary oratory skills, rose to power. Promising to overturn the Treaty of Versailles and restore national pride, he turned public outrage into a political force. Hitler constantly blamed Versailles for all of Germany's suffering, portraying it as a symbol of global injustice. He painted a vision of a superior Germany, an Aryan race deserving of living space, Lebensraum. For a desperate nation, Hitler was not a dreamer, he was the only one who gave voice to their pain. He vowed to tear apart the Treaty of Versailles, restore honor, and bring Germany back to greatness. The humiliation of Versailles had pushed Germany to the brink, but it also ignited a dangerous resolve. Hitler simply knew how to transform this fury into the power of a fascist empire. And the moment he began dismantling the treaty's restrictions, Europe stood on the edge of an impending nightmare, the resurgence of an army without limits. The secret rearmament plan. As soon as he became chancellor in 1933, Hitler implemented decisive policies to rebuild the home front. Command economy. Trade unions were dissolved, strikes banned, and labor discipline militarized. Every citizen, from intellectuals to workers, was required to work. Infrastructure. The world's first Autobahn network was constructed. This not only addressed unemployment but also served as a strategic preparation for future military mobility. Industrial autonomy. Heavy industry, chemicals, and synthetic fuels were developed to ensure that Germany could sustain itself in the event of an economic blockade. Germany's miraculous economic recovery solidified the public's absolute faith in Hitler, laying the groundwork for the next step: rearmament. However, Hitler and his close generals understood that they had to act cautiously. Any overt move risked immediate military intervention by Britain, France, or the other victorious powers. To evade Allied scrutiny, Germany carried out one of history's most sophisticated rearmament campaigns, combining diplomatic deception with military camouflage. Defense industry concealed as civilian production. Forbidden from possessing an air force, Germany circumvented the law by creating aviation sports clubs. Future Nazi pilots trained on gliders and small sport planes before officially joining a secret air force. Civil airlines such as Lufthansa became training grounds for military transport pilots. Heavy industry began producing Panzer tanks. But on paper, they were labeled as agricultural tractors or heavy transport equipment. Parallel militarization. The official army, limited to 100,000 men, was insufficient. Hitler simultaneously established paramilitary organizations like the SA, SS, and Hitler Youth. These groups not only ensured political loyalty but also provided basic military training to millions of young people, creating a massive reserve force ready for conscription. Covert collaboration with the Soviet Union. One of the boldest moves was the Rapallo Treaty, 1922, and secret cooperation with the USSR. Despite ideological opposition, military interests brought Germany and the Soviet Union together in the early 1930s. German engineers and officers tested tanks, fighter planes, and chemical weapons deep inside Soviet territory, experiments impossible on German soil. At secret training schools in Kazan and Lipetsk, the foundation of Germany's armored and air warfare tactics was laid. By the mid-1930s, these experiences became the cornerstone for rebuilding the German military. Another daring step was Hitler's propaganda. He continuously assured the international community that Germany only sought peace and that rearmament was purely defensive. This deception, combined with political divisions in Europe, allowed Western powers to temporarily overlook the increasingly audacious actions of the Nazis. By 1935, feeling strong enough and recognizing the weakness and disunity of the Western powers, Hitler formally renounced the military clauses of the Treaty of Versailles. He reinstated conscription, openly revealed the existence of the Luftwaffe, and set the army's target strength at 550,000 men. Britain and France, fearing war and pursuing appeasement, offered only token objections. This apparent acquiescence convinced Hitler that he could push further without consequence. Hitler's secret rearmament plan was not only audacious but also a testament to his ability to manipulate both military and political realities while deceiving the world. By the late 1930s, the Wehrmacht had fully emerged, no longer a constrained army under Versailles, but a modern, elite force ready to unleash terror across Europe. German soldiers were hailed as the finest warriors. They were indoctrinated to believe they were fighting to restore the nation's honor, avenge the humiliation of Versailles, and, more importantly, secure new living space for Germany. This blind faith forged a force of unwavering discipline, willing to sacrifice themselves, and completely loyal to Hitler. The cult of leadership. Hitler, together with Joseph Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda, fostered a climate of leader worship. Hitler was portrayed not only as a politician but as the father of the nation, inspiring soldiers to fight for a grand ideal. Spectacular parades, thunderous speeches in Nuremberg and Berlin, were not merely displays of power. They instilled steel-like determination in the hearts of soldiers. As a result, in the early years of World War II, this spirit turned the Wehrmacht into a nearly unstoppable force. Soldiers fought with absolute confidence, convinced that victory was destined. The combination of clever propaganda, strict discipline, and fanatical loyalty made the Nazi military not only technologically formidable but also a force that struck deep fear across all of Europe.